Okay, I'm live, and I'm going to play a little music. I don't know what just happened there. I was following one thing. You probably just watched this repetitious pattern go on and on. Anyway, let's play a little Italian music, and I will be back after that, and we'll start the evening. Okay, that was Salvatore Alessio, very interesting Italian artist who I've found only two of his works online and nowhere else on YouTube. Well, greetings, Gamma Joba from Tbilisi, and it's about 10 minutes after 10 here, and I hope you're doing well. Now, I'm assuming that it's going to take a while to get a few people to watch. So I had something I thought about before I do that, and I thought I would reflect back on the last month or so. It occurred to me at some point in the last month that we were living through some incredibly unusual times. And what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to read a list of the events that happened between July 13th and August 12th. And I'm not going to try to interpret them. I'm not going to make political comments about them. I'm simply going to say what they were. And we'll just call this 31 days in 2024. I think this year is shaping up to be one of the most unusual years that we've seen. I think 2020 is certainly surpasses it, but oh my goodness, what's going on here? And it's a bit like 1968 in that you have all of these things, but it's not like 1968. It's just obviously we're in a different zone, different time. So let me just read some of these things. And the reason, of course, that I picked July 13th will be obvious in a second. So, July 13th, we have the attempted assassination of Donald Trump, and one poor man did lose his life, and other people were injured. And this dominates the news cycles. Everyone says that's it, Biden's finished. On July 15th through the 18th, we have the Republican National Convention, which basically coronates Donald Trump. And that has all of its own dramas and such, one of which was announcing J.D. Vance as vice president candidate. July 19th, some of these things are already these weird blips or things we didn't even hear about because everything else was so crazy. So, do you remember July 19th? There's a global IT outage, which to me is, of all the events here, this is the one that's the sign of the future. You know, this is the one I think we really need to think about because, you know, it's getting serious. July 21, Joe Biden bows out of his presidential bid for a second term and passes the rather thin scepter to Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris. Oh, people go on and on about what's the right way to pronounce it. I think Kamala is the best. And then the media starts basically pumping Kamala Harris. Then we have landslides in Ethiopia, which I'll bet nobody heard about on July 22nd, which happened to be my birthday. You can say happy birthday, I'll take that. 275 people were killed in landslides in Ethiopia. But it disappeared because look at this other stuff. July 26th through August 11th, we have the Paris Olympics, complete with controversies, woke politics, problems with sanitation of the Seine River, and even a few moments of glory. A very mixed bag. So there's the Olympics. Then we have on July 28th the Venezuelan elections, which I think we can all agree were the stolen Venezuelan elections by Maduro, which then brought people out into the streets. They have since gone back indoors because they're people without tanks. July 29th, three young girls at a Taylor Swift event in Southport in England are brutally stabbed. Now, I'm certainly not going to get into trying to understand all of this, except to say on July 30th, UK riots begin and continue on to whatever. I think they've kind of finally slowed down, but you know what? That's a big deal. That just reveals a whole lot about what's happening in England and Europe and in some ways in America. So on July 31st, Ismail Haniyeh, leader of Hamas, is assassinated in Tehran, Iran. Oh yeah, that happened. Let's see, what else? Oh, by the way, on August 4th, the Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, a woman, resigns, fleeing the country to India after protests massive catastrophic rioting. 142 people are killed. This is another one way off the radar in most of the West. I mean, it's just like if anyone noticed it, it was a blip and gone with all this other stuff happening. August 6th, Ukraine enters the Kursk region in Russia with 2 full armies. And that continues on. And we don't know what it even means yet. And finally, on August 8th, 9th, and 10th, Taylor Swift tours in Vienna were canceled because of a definite terrorist plot. and no one knew exactly how many were, so that the only way they could be safe is to cancel them. That's just 1 month, middle of July to middle of August. Just absolutely incredible times. Like I've said this before, some people will say to me things like, gee, I wish it was like the 1960s. And I'm saying, you know what? You don't have to time travel. You're there. You are in an epoch as crazy as the 1960s. Obviously, totally inside out in many ways. So now I do have some announcements and other things coming up, updates to things. So stick around for that. Who's out there? Say hello. Michael. Howdy from the Midwest. Howdy, as Minnie Pearl would say. Howdy, as Minnie Pearl would say. Lily Putkina. Lily Putinka. Greetings from London. Okay. Space debris. Watch out for that in Australia. You are up late. Either that or you're working all night. What are you doing conscious at this hour, 4 a.m. in the morning? Because I know you're ahead of me and I'm ahead of pretty much everyone else. But glad to have you. If anyone has any questions they would like to share with us, I will make an attempt to answer. I have put out a few videos recently, you may have noticed, that deal more with kind of personal subject matter, but also subject matter related to why we think what we do, which was the name of the video. Then there was the one that just came out on the symptom pool, and there was another one I did on social contagion, and I'm pretty sure I've got one more on the symptom pool coming up. And so, yeah, that's something to think about. What? Like I say, if you've got questions, feel free. And I'll be here probably at least 90 minutes. So the beginning it was a weird start because I can't explain exactly what happened, but we'll just say technology. So yeah. Well, good to see you folks. And I'm going to play a little bit more music, just a little stuff to ease us into wherever we're going. Okay, I'll give you a vote. Would you rather hear a really crazy Irish new wave song from the 1980s? Or would you rather hear a crazy kind of garage rock song from the early 1960s? Let me know which one you'd rather hear, and then I'll go for it. First person to vote will get it. Did you have a chance to see the film Long Yet Legs? Yes, indeed, I did. And I'll mention that in a moment. But someone needs to tell me what I'm playing next. Weird Irish new wave music, which none of you know about, or weird kind of garage rock from the 1950s. Both of them very short songs. Someone tell me. Did I see Long Legs? Yes, I did. And it inspired me. I'm coming up with a new video, but I had to watch another film first called Stop Motion. And I'm going to do a kind of twofer over on the Anadromous. Anyone care? Irish. Okay, here we go. This is a group called Cruella de Vil. And it's a song about their drunken uncle. What was his name again? I only see the words drunken uncle, but drunken uncle Tom. Is it Tom? Maybe. But it's a very funny song. This group, nobody ever heard this group sing. I found one 12-inch 45 of theirs back in about 1984 in this import warehouse, huge import warehouse filled with thousands of vinyl albums and such. And it looked interesting. I picked it out and I never regretted it. This was not the song, but this is Drunken Uncle. I just can't see it. Anyway, listen to this. It's the group is Cruella de Vil, named obviously after the Disney 101 Dalmatians movie, the villain in that, and Gamar Joba, Mark. Good to see you. And the main two people here are a pair of siblings, brother and sister, who have voices that are very similar to each other, but the song is also quite crazy. So we'll do that, then we'll be right back and talk some more. And I'll get to the long. Cruella de Vil, I don't think they even have a full album's worth of music that ever found the light of day, but they can be found in YouTube land. So, Michael asked me about the movie Longlegs. If you like horror films, this film is for you. Having said that, this is one weird, but I'd call it a piece of art. This is not your normal horror film that's predictable in any manner whatsoever. It does have a doll theme, which is why I'm going to cover it very specially soon, kind of a deep dive on it and this other movie called Stop Motion, which is just as weird, which is about someone making stop motion animation puppets in a movie. And both of these are pretty mind blowing, and they deserve each other. So, yeah, but I think that Long Legs is not for everyone. If you're the kind of person who wants to just go see, people getting killed, demons, the usual horror fare. I just saw Alien Romulus, which I thought was pretty fair, but you're never going to beat the first two Alien movies. It's either 3 or 4 for me as far as the way it goes, depending on what mood I'm in. And some people really love it, or some people are hating it out there in the big world, but I don't care. I have my own opinions. And I saw it like first showing here, and so I didn't get anyone else's opinion before I saw it and made up my own mind. Fair. If you just want a good horror film for a roller coaster ride, Alien Romulus is your ticket. Long Legs, however, which I believe might still be, I think it is still in theaters in the US and some other places. Go. It has to have one of the weirdest Nick Cage performances ever, which is saying quite a bit. However, the film was made by Oz Perkins, who is one of the sons of the late Anthony Perkins, who played in Psycho. And this, you'll have to wait for my video. It's just way too complicated. But I was very impressed with it, and it shot to the top of my list of horror films for 2024. So let's see what else is going on here. Reminds me a little of Christmas wrapping. Oh, okay, I get what you're saying. And yes, well, that was weird. Long Legs has turned into a sleeper hit. Yeah, it's made tons of money considering its budget. That is to say, it's not beating out Wolverine and Deadpool, which I thought was an interesting, fun, and a movie which is definitely sending the weather vane a certain direction. But I'm not sure what yet, because it doesn't look like Marvel, the MCU, actually understood what that film was about. So that's another thing. Anyone else have questions? Mandy is a good one. Yeah, I've seen clips from Mandy and such, and I still haven't seen it. I do have his Color Out of Space, and I saw the movie Pig, which I think may be Nick Cage's best movie. But you're right, I've got to see Mandy. But by all accounts, I mean, this one was very, very, very strange. And Mandy looks like Nick Cage melting down, but this is something else entirely. And I think it has to do with the strangeness of identity, which I will get into when I do the actual review. I don't want to spoil too much of my review. I don't care about spoiling the movie. I care about spoiling the review, though. What else? Any other thoughts, questions, comments, criticisms? One thing I would like to point out, and there are some, how many people here? Not too many. Let's see if I get a few more, and then I'll go start with my announcements. Well, this would actually be a good place. I have, since starting, since last we met, which was before I went to Alaska, and I think I haven't wanted to do this since, and by the way, I owe people bundles of 50 that I still haven't sent of Georgian music. And it's just my fault. I've just been, I don't know where my head's been, but it just hasn't been something I've been kept at the front of my mind, but haven't forgotten. Also, another thing, let's see, what else? So that's just to let you know that I will be sending out those. And by the way, for the 3 people, including Michael, who wanted the entire history of the 20th century that's and who paid for it with a donation. I will be sending those out. There were 85 of them, I think, or 86. I had to rip all of those off the CDs they were on and put them somewhere. And when I send them, it's going to be 3 at a time, because I think 2 or 3 go up to. I just don't want to pay for a subscription for WeTransfer. So I'm going to just send them 2 gigabytes at a time, which is about 3. So yeah, so that's happening. What else is going on here? Well, here's what I'm thinking of doing. I am thinking of starting a Patreon page. And the reason I'm doing that now is because I have different channels and I need to have one central place for all of them. Plus, what I've noticed is the people who are supporting me on this channel, who wonderfully supported me to get my stuff, what I could of my stuff here, I just don't actually have that many. I think, what do I have? 10, 15 monthly subscribers. And then people will donate something here or there. By the way, thank you to, there was an anonymous person who gave $50 about a month ago. And a little earlier than that, someone named Latif Sarawagi gave $20. And then my friend Zimba gave $20. And that's been in the last couple of months. And that was through the GoFundMe site, which is still active. And the link is below in the description. And then we had, I believe, Michael, you gave something which was wonderful. And then someone I talked to recently, a guy named Tim, talked to him about art. He gave some money as well. So here's the deal. I don't actually make any money on this, I realize. I mean, it's just like, it's pathetic the amount of money that comes in from this compared to the amount of work I do on it. I sometimes wonder why I put all this work in. Well, I do it for you guys, obviously. And, as long as there are people still biting, I'm still doing it. But I think what's happened is I've started this other channel, the Anadromous, and the Anadromous is doing quite interestingly. It needs a bit more of a boost, but basically, if you've been missing me over here, you should go over there, where I'm putting up some of the Anadromous is for my media reviews. It's for music, movies. It's for probably some other arts as well. Some things that are staying here. If I do anything on fashion, which I'm planning on it'll stay here. If I do anything on architecture, it'll stay here, or planning, design and planning and that sort of stuff. But if you want more of me and you're not getting it, go over to the Anadromous. Here are some of the things I've put out in the last few months. I did a review of the movie Abigail, called Abigail and Her Sisters. It's a horror film, but there's a lot more going on than just the review. I have started to put the Cute and Creepy series over there in a slightly different form. And this is to motivate me. My goal is to finish the series up by the end of the year. By 2025, it should be completely off my desk. And then there is a great conversation over there with James Wallace, who has a channel called 20th Century Music and Arts, which I recommend. And we did a discussion about how we discovered music when we were young, even though we came from non-musical families. And he really got into punk and rock, classic rock and heavy metal, and some of the alternative and grunge forms in the 90s and such like that, and found my channel, found my stuff here of the How We Got Here series, and was really fascinated by that. Also, I've put up my Why Horror video over there again. And I put out How We Got Here Music Editions Parts 1 through 4 and How We Got Here the Movie Editions Parts 1 and 2 up over there. Interestingly enough, when I put up the How We Got Here Music Edition, It actually got over 5,000 views, which it's nowhere near getting on this channel, which is precisely why I have sequestered the things that are involved with media over there, because I don't want to load this channel up with media stuff. But I do want a place where I can do stuff like that and where I can do a film review. I don't think this channel is the place for the film reviews because it's more ephemeral. It comes and goes, and a lot of people here like the think pieces that I do and stuff like that. Although, speaking of which, I just went through that whole thing about 31 Days of Summer in 2024. Guess what I'm thinking about doing? I'm thinking when we get through the elections and get to the end of the year here, it might be time. What do you think? It might be time to go and try to. Nothing is resolved, it seems, but it seems like so much is happening that I need to do How We Got Here, number 14. What do you think about that? So let's see what's going on here. Okay, we've got more people. Okay, try to get here. Space debris. Mandy was a good one. Yes, I'll definitely get a copy of that. I tend to watch the movies I get copies of rather than, I don't like streaming. The only time I will stream is once a year for a month in like November or part of December. I will go on Netflix and catch up on some things that I seem to need to. But as I get closer to it, I'll look and see, do I need to? Do I need to spend another, what, I don't know, $10, $15 on? I just don't like streaming. I'm becoming very, I wouldn't say allergic to it, against it. How's that? So I'll have to wait on that, but I will, I'm definitely gonna eventually get that. Richard Lund, I'm looking for the history. Glad you are working on it. Yes, I am. A rafter of turkeys just emerged from the woods behind my house. I do care. I wish I had one here. I would love to. Turkeys are amazing. There's a great John Lee Hooker song. Is it John Lee Hooker? Or is it Mississippi Fred McDonald? No, it's John Lee Hooker. It's like long gone, like a turkey through the fall. No, I think that is Mississippi Fred McDonald. It's one of those guys. Anyway, long gone like a turkey through the corn. Great song. So let's see. Steve Ross, welcome. Hey, Byrne. Excuse the alternate moniker. I was the one who sent you the info on Manic Street Preachers. Yeah, I had no idea who that was. Huge fan. Yeah, I'm going to look into them for you. You should have said, hey, this is Steve Ross. Then I would have said, oh, okay, he's doing something cryptic with his account. But yeah, I'll look into that for you for sure. Keep up with the culture. I will. So, let me finish up what I was doing here. I was reading you some of the things that are going on over at the Anadromous. So there's a great conversation with Laura Sillenpaw, who's been on this channel before, but about AI and the future of music. That has not showed up on this channel. It may eventually, but it's going to be over there for a while. Likewise, there's a dialogue with drummer Andy Edwards from the UK. And he used to drum with, when Robert Plant had a band after Led Zeppelin called Band of Joy, he was a drummer for that band. And we had a great discussion on blackface minstrelsy and American culture. And so, yeah, there's a lot going on over there, and there will be more coming up. What is it? Oh, there's another discussion with James, actually on James Wallace's channel, 20th Century Music and Arts. He just put up a the first of a two-part conversation with me. He wanted me to talk about the music scene and what was going on culturally in New York City when I was there in the 80s, and then again when I was there through the 90s as well. So we've recorded both of those. The 80s is up. I highly recommend it if you're interested in both the journey I've taken and many of the things that developed culturally in the 1980s. I will eventually bring it over to, I think I'll bring it here rather than the Anadromous. I'm going to, the Anadrome, we'll see. But yeah, there's that, and there's more coming up over there. There was a whole discussion I did on Andy's channel. Well, that is the one that is here on Blackface Minstrelsy. Oh, I did another one though. What was that? Oh, I talked with him about Taylor Swift, and which reminds me, there are two parts to the Taylor Swift one. I noticed the one there has fewer views than the one here, and maybe it's because I lured you in with the talk of the religious talk, but really, to understand really the second one, which was on this channel, better, you really need to go over and watch the first one, part one of Who is Taylor Swift. So if you need more of me, it's over on the Anadromous. And I'm getting ready to kind of reinvigorate the Gravity from Above channel and the uh, Georgian Crossroads channel. I've been kind of sitting on all this stuff, but I've been, I don't know, kind of since I got back from Alaska, I've been concentrating on this stuff, but I wish there were more of me, like a me to do this and a me to do this. I often thought, if I had just a life to read books, that would be great. And just a life to listen to music, that would be great. And just a life to make artwork, that would be great. And just a life to watch movies, that would be great. And just a life to live separately from all that stuff, that'd be great. But unfortunately, I don't have that. So I have to kind of deal with all of this stuff at once. I'll never get everything out of my head out for all of you. So you'll just have to take what you can get. I do have more announcements coming up. Let's see what's going on here. Who's saying what to whom? Hey, James, did you hear me talking about? Yeah, you heard me giving you a shout out there. Live Skull was my favorite NY band. Now, what's funny is I didn't see them. They were one of the ones I missed. I never saw them even a poster with them on it. I think by the time I got interested, they were kind of already on the way out. I did, however, as I mentioned in the discussion with James about the 80s and the 90s especially, when we get to the 90s, then I start talking about Sonic Youth and Band of Susans, both of whom I knew people in those bands. Let's see, Steve Ross. I feel like we have explored every corner of Sonic tapestry. Yeah, which is one of the reasons why I think music is in a very strange place. There's too much choice, and truthfully, we went through it all much too quickly. And what people need to do is go back and discover, and if there are things that interest people, become a historian about it. Become someone who understands something of what happened. Follow your own trail through history. Am I familiar with Brian Eno's philosophy on future musics? I mean, I have a pretty good idea, but tell me what you think they are, Steve, and I will let you know if I mean, he said a lot of things. I used to, I talked with him and such. I have a pretty good idea which way he was taking things, but he was always telling me about music as wallpaper, which unfortunately, one way or another, is what's happened. It's become background soundtrack for people. And when you have a soundtrack for people, you no longer, when what's happened is we put the music in our ears, we drive, or we're using it as we're driving, or we're walking along, and it interprets everything we see like the soundtrack on a film. And that's just not very good. But speaking of music, I'm going to take a little break here and play a piece of music. Let's play a piece of music by someone I know. It's a guy named Byrne Whitfield, who's out of Massachusetts, Boston area. He's a guy who did, his real name was Barry White. He couldn't use that name because it had been already taken by another Barry White. And but anyway, he was really into 50s style rhythm and blues, like with Little Richard and those guys, and he was into garage rock from the 1960s, which is a wonderful zone. All of that for me is great. This is a recent video he put out of a new song of his, and he's doing an interesting technique. There's a certain kind of a sound that some records get where you take the old microphone and you talk into it, and it gives this really weird distorted, echoey quality. But this is a great like combo of 50s rhythm and blues style with garage rock from the 60s. But it's a new song. Byrne Whitfield, I believe. Is this him with the Savages? We'll see.
Awesome.
That was great. Byrne Whitfield. Well, I first saw him play live at the Waverly in New York City about 1984. And I was just really impressed because it was so unpretentious. It was just someone playing rock and roll, which I love. And I had bought his first record, and I did a review for it for a magazine called Fast Folk, which used to come with a record. Evidently, these are pretty valuable today. But I have them. I have mine. But then later, when I was in Alaska, I was given the job of one summer of finding music for the fair, and I immediately said, what's Barron's Whitfield been up to? Because I thought, like, I need someone who I know is good, who can come up to Alaska and not cost a lot of money. So I brought him and this guy who does rockabilly, rock and roll, and country music, Deke Dickerson, who is basically an archivist of some of the most obscure corners of Americana. And yeah, and he came up and they played together. And one of my great moments was they were practicing songs in my living room, but they weren't fully amped up or anything. They were just singing, and the drummer was just tapping on a pad, and that was just wonderful. And I love music that is just as is, and that was great. So, so let's see. Here we are. Oh, I know what I wanted to do. I wanted to tell you a little bit more. I think we have a good thing. Things coming up. Well, one thing that's not coming up is I had planned a puppet festival for October. And I started getting some vibes that something was going to happen. It wasn't going to happen about right before I left to go to Alaska. And when I got back, sure enough, it wasn't. But not for the obvious reason. That is to say, it wasn't that the producer lost interest. It was that we had all these demonstrations and protests here. And my producer friend is really connected to like arts institutes that give money to Georgia and such. So she just didn't feel right. She actually wants to leave the country. So I realized, okay, well, this isn't going to work. I had another alternative plan involving the local French school, but I just fell through. So that means October and November are pretty open for me. And one of the things I was thinking of is I was thinking of maybe doing another gathering in Georgia, probably in November. Now, I need at least 4 people to even consider doing it. So if anyone is interested in that, leave a message down below or get in touch with me through one of the different ways to get in touch with me, either here on X, Twitter, or Facebook, or using the email address that's above, right under the title. So yeah, so I'm thinking of doing that, and what I'm thinking of doing is spending more time here in Georgia, in Tbilisi, in the town, and then going for a few days, maybe 2-3 days, to Vardzia, which is this medieval cave city that they carved out of these caves. And it's a fantastic place, but not only that, there's a family there who grows all their own food and is really generous about inviting people in. And if we rent houses, our rooms from them, it could be a very interesting cultural situation. So there's a whole bunch there. I'm thinking about it. I need to get at least 4 people who are interested. And so when this video goes on the channel itself, I'll make sure. And if I start to get some interest, then I'll actually start to really promote it. Which then brings us to, well, not coming up to that. Here's one thing I've decided to do. Like I said, I am thinking about doing a Patreon. If you have any feelings about that, let me know one way or another. I am not committed to doing it, but I am seriously thinking about it. And if I do, I may not be able to, for the same reason I cannot monetize any videos here, and that it has to do with the banks in Georgia and me being here. It's just very weird. But one of the other things, one thing I am going to do is I am going to start putting this book. Let's see if I can get that. Come. Are you looking at me? 3 Motions. It's 3 different little plays by me, puppet plays, and with a kind of a page and a half essay at the beginning about some of my puppet observations. Anyway, I made 150 copies of this. I think there are about 100 left. I sent 30 copies to the UK. I still have to send them some envelopes and mailing money. And I sent about 50 copies to a guy in the US who is going to send them to people there. So they will be, I think I'll be asking $20 for the book, which will, and then $5 for postage, so $25. But then at least $5 of those dollars will go to the person who's handling it. But the main thing is, I want to get these out. Nobody has a copy, and when they're gone, they're gone. They're all numbered and signed. That's my, so it's just a nice little thing. I wasn't thinking when I first made it. I was not thinking about using it as a perk on the channel as a way to make a little extra money. But now I'm thinking I have another 20 or 30 of them here. And so I brought them. What I've been doing here is giving them to friends because I can't sell them here. You know, who would I put these in a bookstore? Who on earth would buy that? You know, it's a weird thing. If it's interesting to you, we'll discuss it. One friend, my friend Keith, already bought one. So, but wait for the actual announcement, which will be a separate video. So here's one thing I'm thinking of doing in January. I'm more than thinking. I've already bought tickets and found a room. I'm going to Florence, Italy. I've always wanted to go there, and I've never wanted to go there at the same time because it is so full of tourists. And so what I've done is chosen the dead time of the year here is after January 1st. The Tbilisi blows up on January 1st. And then there is a time between there and about the 14th that is kind of a dead time. It's hard. People are all, I don't know what they're doing, having a holiday celebration, but it's such a family time. And since, unfortunately, I'm not part of anyone's family, it's usually a time when there isn't a lot going on. So I'm going to Florence for 2 weeks. I've already found an inexpensive place to stay, and I found a pretty cheap ticket round trip. So, but my reason for going is not to be a tourist. My reason for going is to do a deep dive on history. So right now, I am reading, I have a book, a hardcore book on walking through Florence, looking at the architecture. I'm trying to figure out what's the best way to go to the absolutely massive Uffizi Gallery, which has all the Botticellis and some other great works, and seeing the various things that are done by Michelangelo and some of the other people. And so one thing I haven't counted in yet is the food costs. I think I did the whole thing under $700, which is not bad for, you know, leaving on a plane, booking 2 weeks somewhere and coming back. But I haven't thought about the food really. And so what I'm going to do is come back in December and see if I can raise a little money just to cover the food expenses and stuff like that. Hopefully that'll be there. But I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm reading, for instance, I have Machiavelli's History of Florence, which is a really bizarre thing. And I have these other books. I even got the Rick Steves book on Florence, which is good because you realize, you know, I'm sitting there saying to myself, why do I want to do this? Do I just want to walk through museums and see these things? No, I don't. I do want to go into museums and see them, but I want to be really well educated about it before I walk in. I don't want to be someone just glancing, you know, looking at the painting for a moment, glancing at the label and going on to the next painting, which is what a lot of people do. So that is my plan. And I will let you know. Like I say, in December, I'm going to make sure I'll probably come on live a couple times before then. But in December, I'm definitely going to have just a little, please help me cover some of those expenses, kind of get together here online. But, and as I said earlier, I haven't forgotten the people who need their 50 Georgian songs yet, nor the people who need their 85-part history of the 20th century, which I have now ripped off the CDs they were on and put into files. Now I just need to go through the intensely laborious work of sending all those to the 3 people who got it. One thing I'm thinking of doing is making sure I have a website that will allow me to put those up there, and so they'll be behind a paywall, and if anyone wants to get those, they can. All right, so I'll take questions. I've got one more announcement, but I think it's time for a little more music. What do we got here? Oh, this is one of my favorite pieces. This is my favorite piece of music that I have found on YouTube in the last year, and I got the album, the CD that this was on, sent to me. And it's by a group, goes by different names, the Barcelona Gypsy Balkan Band, which Barcelona is obviously not in the Balkans, but I think that's where they start. Alternatively, they're known as the Barcelona Gypsy Klezmer Orchestra. And this is a song called Lule Lule. And I'm going to play this for you. This is just an absolutely beautiful song. The lead singer is a woman named Sandra Sanglia. And she eventually quit the band, but she just has it's not that her voice is the most fantastic in the world. She just has a presence while singing that very few people have. So let's listen to... Okay, that was the Barcelona Gypsy Klezmer Orchestra, or Barcelona Gypsy Balkan Orchestra, depending on which album it is. So thanks for watching that. How are we doing on time here? I'll go for at least another to the half-hour mark, and we'll see. It is getting later here in not as late as in Australia. We won't even discuss that. So let's see. Got some thoughts. Okay, and here is the big event for me next year. I turned 69 back near the end of July, and next year I will be turning 70. So I've decided 70 is a nice round number, and who knows if I'll see 80 would be nice, but one can't predict these things. So I can feel fairly confident I'll get to 70. So I'm going to do something very special. I'm going to invite some friends here from other places and Georgians and rent out a hall somewhere. And then I'm going to invite people from the channel. If you want to come here, what I realize is there's, besides my birthday and the events surrounding that, a lot of the cultural stuff here is not happening. However, there is a music festival that goes on for exactly the period right around both sides of my birthday. It's called the Art Gene Festival, or Geni Festival. And it is a festival of traditional Georgian music from all the different areas of Georgia. Doesn't cost that much to get in. And it's in an amazing location just on the mountain behind me in this, what some people call a scanson, but it's an ethnographic museum where they have all the different houses from the different regions of Georgia in this one area. And there's a little amphitheater there where they have concerts and such. So it's not a huge location, which is what makes it great. And when I was there, there were people just kind of singing off to the corner, and there were musicians that night. They were mostly from Imereti, I believe. No, Megrelian, I think. But which is these are sections of Georgia. But then we saw the absolutely incredible dance troupe, Sukrishvili, and I suddenly started saying that would be a good temptation if I wanted to get people here to come for my 70th birthday, spend part of the time, like 3 days at this festival. And like I say, it's on both sides of my birthday. So some people can come and leave right after my birthday, and other people can come right before my birthday and stay another week. So there's everyone doesn't all arrive at once. Although that will, everyone will be here all at once for the birthday itself. Anyway, I'm thinking about this, and if you're interested, you should think about it. And I'm going to mention it more as we get closer. But I'm kind of excited by it. That sounds like something of a really interesting thing, and I'm going to go all out for this because how many days of the year does one celebrate turning 70? And so many of the great artists and writers and filmmakers and such that I really love didn't live to be 70, like Tarkovsky and Dostoevsky, but also all those musicians who died at 27 and all these other people. So for me, that's an event. Like I say, then we'll see if we get to 80. That's the next goal. Whereas 75 is a nice number too, but I'll think about that much later. Aloha, and let's see what's going on here. Okay. All right. So, anybody have any questions about any recent videos or anything like that? If you do, this would be a good time. How have you guys been? I see we've got about 14 people watching right now, which is wonderful. And if you want to contribute to the channel, feel free. And subscribe, like, but you can do that later. What I'm gonna do is put this video out as is pretty much. But I'm gonna put the little section I did at the beginning of 31 days in August of 2020, well, 31 days in 2024, which is where I just talk about how crazy the last month has been. The last 31 days, a little bit before this, but still. From Trump's assassination attempt all the way to everything else. Just absolutely astounding period of history we're living in. And what makes it even weirder is the amount of mockery that it generates online. That no matter what happens, there's someone who will mock it, which I find really fascinating. And one of the things I thought about before we got to the 21st century was that the 21st century will be, see, when the Greeks used to do plays, they used to do a tragedy, and then they would follow it up with a farce, a comedy. We're living in the farce version of the 20th century, which doesn't mean it won't be deadly. It just means, we have this chorus of people and I notice whenever anything happens, there's always people who hate it and will turn their noses up at it, and always people who praise it indiscriminately. And sometimes, these things command those kind of emotions. But I think it's a dangerous time because it means it's very hard for us to take things seriously. And I think we need to if we want to get out of this farcical zone. So let's see, what else have we got here? Well, what's going on with? Yeah, I'm not even going to repeat those words because those are exactly the kind of words the YouTube algorithms are looking for, especially if you put them after Taylor Swift's name. So, so I'm not going to even answer that. At the beginning, I had a list of what's going on. But the basic thing is, we'll see. Taylor Swift's got these concerts 5 more concerts in London before she leaves the continent. And if you know anything about the UK right now, about what's going on, then you know that, this could get weird. We will see. Do you not like Radiohead? I feel like Kid A is very much a studio creation. No, I do like Radiohead. I have about 10 of their albums. And yes, their music is often studio creations. I haven't got any problem with an album being a studio creation. I do have problems, however, when they can't repeat it live and they act like they can. This was my big problem when I saw The Clash. They put out their Sandinista triple album, and it had lots of musical experimentation. And then when they played, they just played sludgy versions of all these songs, just with absolutely no finesse whatsoever. So no, I find Radiohead very interesting. I also find them, while musically I find them very interesting, I find them very much monotone. That is to say, they have beautiful songs, but they stay in this one narrow band of sound. And it's kind of a mournful sound. It's like the sounds. There was a certain aspect of the late 90s where they came out of, where people were doing things like trip hop and these other kind of, there were these dirgy lo-fi noise tracks that people were doing. Groups like Sigur Rós and stuff like that. And I think that they are like those bands. That is to say, they have this dark tone, but they have no idea how to have any joy whatsoever. And I don't know if they believe that such a thing is possible. Maybe, but so I certainly don't spend too much time listening to them because it's quite clear to me life has to have joy. One of the reasons I moved to Georgia is because there is joy here. There are people who will sing. Let me show you a Georgian clip here. This is a short 2 minutes of Georgian song. Last, when I was raising money to go to Alaska, I played some Georgian songs. There was one I played of these guys at an airport singing. It's also on, also on the Anadromous, I did a version of my What is Georgian Music video, and I started off with one of these. But I didn't play this one. And this one is in the Kiev airport, and it's a group of Georgian men and others singing. And just, this is what I mean by joy. You know, it's just like, you know, I'm sorry. See, I love stuff like that. That to me is the real thing. That is to say, if I go to a concert with massive speakers and people are playing super professionally, I feel like I'm being robbed. Because to me, music isn't the thing coming through the microphones and the amplifiers. It's the thing that comes directly at you. The more direct, the better. The less mediation, the better. And I'm going to do at some point for both channels my What is Music. I did find a version of my What is Music lecture in my Alaskan boxes on CD. And I'm thinking about whether I should do that or whatever. I have a lot of other stuff that I'm thinking of putting behind a paywall very soon. So I'll tell you more about that as we get closer to it. But my idea of what music is probably very different from most people's. And that is to say, I can express it to you like this. People would walk into my house. They would see I have a massive wall full of thousands and thousands and thousands of records and CDs and all this other stuff. I mean, 13,000, we'll say. And they will say, you have a lot of music, Byrne. And I would turn to them and go like, I have no music. Those are all recordings. They're not music. And that may sound like I'm splitting some weird hair, but I'm not. Imagine that all of your conversations in life were done like this, or even better, as recordings of people. Would you say you had great conversations? I would think if you were honest, you would say, not through this means. I'm not having a conversation with you except on the most minimal level. Doing this, I'm speaking minimal level. Let me go pay attention to it. Yeah, but this was not a flash mob performance. I see your comment there. This is not that at all. This is the real thing. This isn't people going and saying, you know, why would people all go to the Kiev airport and meet there? That's insane. So no, the flash mob thing it's a commercialization. It's almost like an ironic joke of what real music is. You know, do we all show up here and then we sing? And I'm sure people have done it for very good reasons. But what I'm trying to get people to do is to look back at the real thing. This explains my interest in puppetry as well. I want things that people can touch. I want to be in a room where people are singing without amplification. I want people to start singing again for each other, and not as all my friends in New York would do. When they played music together, they did not sing together. They went into studio rooms and played at full concert volume. This is not the best way to approach music. So let's see. Yeah, well, there's a lot of good Britpop. I see what you're saying there, Steve. There is a lot of good Britpop. And you see, I've kind of got two minds. One is I can put myself inside of any period of time and understand it from inside out. But meanwhile, back here, I'm looking for the real thing. For instance, there's a friend of mine who is in Finland now, but she's a Georgian, but she was here playing classical music piano concerts. And it's just like, I am sorry, there is no recording, no amplification that will ever beat being in a room watching her play the piano and listening, because it's just on the edge. It's just so good. Let's see. But at the same time, for instance, I'm just now coming up with this idea about the late 90s, early aughts. And I started thinking like, okay, so you have all this teen stuff starts happening then. So you get like the pop punk, you get the neo ska. There's a weird kind of pop Latin thing going on. There's neo swing music. But you also got these teen horror films and a lot of other stuff that's kind of in this weird bubble of you can say this is very much this period. And if I put myself into it, it's very fascinating to look at, and I can kind of understand what's going on. And at the same time, I feel in all those cases, in all those styles, the hand of money is everywhere, much more so than in the early 90s, where the hand of despair was everywhere. You know, so nihilistic despair described a lot of the early, noisier, alternative part of the 90s, whereas the later part was suddenly, and I finally figured out what it was. It was very similar to what happened in the 1940s after World War II. And I realized, oh yeah, we had just finished up the Cold War. The reason that we didn't immediately all celebrate was because we were already in the middle of this other story and this cultural warfare. But once certain things had changed, and I'm going to do a whole video on this, but it just struck me that, okay, now I know why this music strikes me the way it does. Because if you listen to the music of the late 1940s, and I don't mean the jazz that was running underneath or the rhythm and blues, but if you listen to the pop music of the late 1940s, early 50s, How Much Is That Doggy in the Window, these really weird, easy listening albums and stuff, you're like, what is going on here? And what's going on is people are saying, we don't want the heavy stuff anymore. And what happened, I think, in the late 90s is people said, yeah, let's not shoot this for adults anymore. Does anyone have a book we could sell that would sell to younger people that might energize a a young adult book world? Yes, we found one of those. Yeah, well, unfortunately, but I see what you're saying here, Senior Cibola. Yeah, unfortunately, we are in a situation where people don't play instruments anymore. The young people used to all play instruments. When I was growing up, you know, it's like I know tons of people who played guitar. I played guitar. That wasn't too bad. I decided at some point to not go that direction, or I would have become much better. But by now, people are just sitting alone in their rooms. You know, there's some YouTubers I watch who I can tell they never leave the house. They make videos all the time. They never leave. That's a sad state of affairs. And these are younger people. You know, so to play music, you need more than one person. It's just the way it goes. I mean, what good does it do to play for yourself? And what good does it do simply to use this as a means for playing music? I mean, it does a little good, I suppose, but you know, all those people who do those things just for the video, it's just like, no, I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in music as it is supposed to be, which is for life. Life isn't about music. Music is about life. What else have we got? Yeah, you're right about the garage rock revival being kind of despised. But a lot of things now from the past are despised. I was listening. I've been listening to a few people who are producers of new music, whether hip hop or more polished, shall we say, Swedish style. And they'll go back and listen to, you know, they'll have videos. First time I ever listened to the Beatles, and then they will notice things. And what I notice they're noticing is they just notice the production. They're not listening to what I would notice first of all, the song. You know, what's the song about? What's it doing to you? What's the melody and everything? They're listening instead they'll be saying, "Oh, they're using that kind of tom tom. Oh, they, you know, in this out they're using this. Oh, that was a really nice fade they did, you know, between, you know." They'll be listening to that stuff, and I'm going like, that is really weird that people don't know how to listen to music anymore. Consequently, if a song isn't produced correctly, they can't hear the music. In other words, you know, there are great blues singers out there whose music is just very sparsely recorded. I mean, how are you going to listen to Robert Johnson from the 1920s and 30s if you have to have production to hear it, because his music isn't produced? It's just him in front of an old microphone. And if that's all you're hearing, you're missing the music. You know, there was a guy named Robert Johnson who sat in front of this creaky little microphone back in the 1920s and sang the most haunting songs imaginable. And they're missing that because they can't hear the haunted quality of it. Sorry. Mm. Okay, the reason critics still like Elvis, all like Elvis Costello better, is because they all look like Elvis Costello. David Lee Roth, I get it, I get it. Yeah, but then again, I don't have a lot of respect for David Lee Roth, mostly because I met him, and the guy just came across as that. Whatever, I mentioned that somewhere else. So let's see. Okay, well, I'm thinking. Does anyone have any actual questions? If you do, put them out. Let me play one more song, and I'll get myself out of here. Who else is here? So we got these people. Oh, that's nice that your missus plays the piano every night. And isn't that, you know what's weird is someone above me could be playing some sort of, I don't know, television or radio or sound system, and that will annoy the hell out of me. But if someone upstairs, and there is a woman who in the afternoons goes upstairs and plays an actual piano, I just go like, oh, well, that's real. That's like a waterfall or something. It's not disturbing sound. And it's an interesting fact. But wait for my What Is Music video. Okay. Well, let me play one more, and then I'll come back and say my farewells. I'm trying to think, what kind of music should I play that I've got here? Did that. Okay, this is from Argentina. This is a band called Fandango, and they do a kind of American Gothic style music, which is to say it has a whiff of the 19th century to it. And also, they actually do funeral music, which I think is really fascinating. They got in touch with me after I did this series in my essays on the Anadromous life about American Gothic culture. And they said, Oh, thank you for saying this. Now we know what we're doing. So, so here we go. This is Fandango doing a piece called Adios Linera, which I assume is another of their funeral songs. And this is what we're missing. We're missing funeral songs. We're missing wedding songs. And I don't mean cheap stuff, but I mean, we're missing people who will write and comment on life. Music was always supposed to be involved with life. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself. So.
Adiós amigo, adiós linchera, esta canción te recordará, sin amargura, llantos ni penas, en mi memoria siempre estarás, con un saludo y un fuerte abrazo, te despedimos de corazón, para que siempre quede el recuerdo de tu presencia en la agrupación. Serás por siempre radiante estrella por las calles de esta ciudad, luz que ilumine las horas bellas en las noches del carnaval. Cuando a lo lejos surja un recuerdo y el pecho se infle de emoción, como estandarte por estos cielos, tu memoria se hará inspiración. Cuando tu canto nos traiga el viento y el recuerdo venza la razón, serás eterno en el sentimiento de estos lincheras que cantan hoy. Por eso, amigo, quiero decirte y saludarte una vez más. A vos, amigo, a vos, linchera, que en mi recuerdo siempre estarás. Adiós, amigo, adiós, linchera, serás eterno en el carnaval.
Okay, well, I think that's going to wrap it up for me. I've appreciated being here. It's nice to see more people dropping in, saying hello, and passing on thoughts. I'm going to get out of here, but let me thank you for coming along this evening and joining me. And thank you all for supporting the channel and supporting me and what I'm doing. And again, go check out the Anadromous if you haven't. And we shall meet again very soon. So I'm just going to play, I'm going to say Drobit, we will meet again. And I'm going to play one more song. And I'm not coming back after that. And you're going to have to laugh without me. Because this is one of these obscure 60s songs that will make you ask, really? They were singing like that in the 1960s? I'm out of here.
That's my baby, Peter, and he's a loving man.